wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible with your host, Dr. Dolores Fazzino. Today's topic is about forgiveness and self-forgiveness. Too often in our lives, we hold on to grudges and possibly unknowingly hold on to things that are no longer serving us. Forgiveness is one of the foundational keys to having good health and lasting wellness. So often when something happens to us, we have a tendency to hang on to it and hold a grudge. But the only person that's actually hurting is ourselves. I'm just going to read from my book, Your Itty Bitty Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible, 15 Key Steps to Manifesting True Health and Lasting Wellness. I wrote a chapter on self-forgiveness, and I'm going to just recap some of the important things that I felt were really important to address. Forgiveness is rather a touchy subject for many. Self-forgiveness is even more so. It is the cornerstone to true health and lasting wellness. Sometimes your ego controls the situation and needs to be right no matter what the cost. How many times do we pretend that we're a pit bull and we're grabbing onto the calf of somebody and we're just hanging on and just sinking our teeth in and never letting it go? The thing to remember, we are the hardest on ourselves. When you do not forgive yourself, hold grudges, or partially forgive, and we'll talk about that more, you are only hurting yourself. Forgiving, but not forgetting, is incomplete forgiveness. It's like a string that is still attached to the situation and is still incomplete. Forgiveness liberates you. It creates the space for you to experience miracles in your life. So let's talk about a little bit about what happens sometimes when we hang on to grudges. And sometimes it's been years, sometimes it's been decades, maybe it's been your whole life, but it's energetically still influencing you. When I was working with a coaching client several years ago, he was on the list to receive a liver transplant. And what was really interesting was when you look at the dynamics in our physical body, like the liver holds a lot of anger, it holds a lot of rage, but also when we are connected within our body systems in ways Western medicine has no clue. And I say that because I am Western medicine trained and I also dabble in other things as well. Things are more interconnected than we know. So for this gentleman, I tapped into his energy and I asked him, I said, why am I feeling like there's this sadness or heaviness in your heart space? And he said, well, yeah, I have some hurts and stuff. I said, well, I'm feeling the need for you to look at forgiveness. And just understand, up until that point, he had been on the list to receive a liver for a while. He had come very close to receiving one, and then the 11th hour, somehow it just did not work out. And anybody who's not familiar with, transplants and transplant patients, this sometimes does happen. So we were trying to figure out what was the missing piece that was allowing him to get so far energetically. In the 11th hour, it's like the rug gets pulled out. So we decided to go deal with this in another another way. Instead of looking at the liver and why the anger, it's taking it a step back and looking at what's happening in his heart space, and as far as the ability to hold a grudge and hang on to something. And I said to him, what is it you really feel you need to forgive? And he just welled up with a lot of emotion, and he said, I know what it is. I said, okay, I'm going to invite you to go and work on that and assist yourself with that. And so he did. And do you know, a week later, a liver was made available, and it was the exact match of what he needed in order to carry through. Sometimes when we hold on to things energetically, it clogs the space for something better to come in. How many times energetically do we hold on to things, ruminate and fester, and maybe it's even about beating your own self up, that we clog the space with that debris that is not allowing anything else to come in that's going to be better aligned. So, takeaway from this is that, number one, if you are stuck in your life or feeling like you're not moving forward, look at where you need to forgive and look at how you need to do this, and just follow your intuition on this. There's lots of great resources out there. There's guided meditations, or speak to somebody who has the capability to walk you through that and to allow you to embrace and take this in to heal it internally. It doesn't take much time. Things and healings are happening rapidly these days. It's as quickly as flipping switches. Sometimes it's just acknowledging of what is going on that segues it into its own healing on its own. So take inventory of where you're hanging on to things in your life that are of a huge disservice, especially if you're feeling stuck and not able to move forward in your life the way that you would like. When you are able to transmute, transcend, and transform that stuck energy, guess what? There's a void that's created, and you could put things in that void that are more aligned with where you want to go and what you want to create. Some wonderful books that I recommend, and they were really pivotal, foundational books that I used early in my life, were a book by Colin Tippin, and it's called Radical Self-Forgiveness. He also wrote another book that's called Radical Forgiveness. These are my go-to books, especially if I'm going through things, because we all are going through things, and it's always a good way to do some self-reflection and self-growth, but also self-nurturing and healing as well. Now, going back to what else we have to talk about here, some of the best things to do when you are trying to do some self-forgiveness is, this is another aspect from my book. Did you know that there are 3 important aspects to self-forgiveness? Okay. The first one is forgiving others. Everything someone else has done to you, believe it or not, you have done to them as well, whether you believe it or not. This could be more of an energetic thing, unconscious thing, but it's true. Asking forgiveness of others. Since you have done this very act to others as well, you may also ask forgiveness of others for the very act that was done to you by them. Now take a deep breath. Most importantly, forgive yourself. So there's 3 aspects of self-forgiveness: forgiving others, asking forgiveness of others, and most importantly, forgiving yourself. Since you tend to beat yourself up consciously or unconsciously, it is important to forgive yourself for the very act that was done to you by others, which you have done to others, and for that very act that if you are done to yourself as well. Okay. You must also try reflecting on the things that you are unaware of that are unresolved issues of forgiveness. And believe me, we all have those. Being kind to yourself is important. And remember, you are loved more than you know. So, with that in mind, forgiveness is a big deal. Self-forgiveness is even more important. If you're feeling stuck or in a bind or like out of control, I totally invite you to look on forgiveness and forgiving yourself. And so I'm going to wrap this up for now. Stay tuned next week for another episode of On Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible with myself, Dr. Dolores Fazzino. And we're going to talk about those people who are sensitive. You feel things so deeply, maybe you don't know where you're taking on other people's stuff and you're not realizing it. So we're going to talk about empaths, intuitives, and highly sensitive people. So please stay tuned, and we'll be back next Wednesday for our next episode. And if you choose, I invite you to subscribe to the YouTube channel so we could get this information out to many people. Enjoy, have a blessed day, and God bless.